Hello and good afternoon or good evening or whenever you're listening to it, and welcome to the Wednesday week Hello from the Other Side edition. My name's Dan Fudge, and with me today I've got Dan from the Yellow Block. Upcoming is the first leg of the playoff away at Peterborough, or Posh, with the young Ferguson in his 17th stint in charge of the club. I've lost count now. I don't know what's happening. How will we fare down at I've forgotten the name of the bloody ground. How will we fare down at Peterborough? Will we get a 0-0 draw? Will we get an absolute stonewall 0-0 nonsense, or will it all happen? Stick with me and let's find out in the next 20 minutes. Dan, how are you, pal? You all right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Not so bad, not so bad. Listen, I'm going to get it out the way early doors. I'm going to go and say that the socials from your club, in terms of the Mr. Bean promotional video, is one of the greatest social media posts I think I've seen in a good few years.
It's a nice change, to be honest, because normally our social media is dire. If I'm perfectly honest, we've lacked for a long time, and they've sort of tend to steer clear of Peterborough altogether half the time and go for the classic players like Ivan Toney, and sort of, you know, if he does well, we'll send something out on the socials and sort of milk it.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, it's not exactly a masterpiece, don't get me wrong. It's literally just some logos on there on a video that's already made. But honestly, but my favourite part about it was the shithousing with the Cambridge logo just stuffed in the corner on when he starts loading it up at the people in coach. Quite enjoyed that little nod there. We can't do that because Sheffield United are going to be playing Premier League football next season.
Yes.
So you know, the less said about that, the better. So tell me about your running. Tell me about sneaking in the playoff. Sneaking in might be you know, a bit of a jibe, but I genuinely don't mean it that way. Tell us about getting in the playoffs. Did you see it come in? When did you start to believe?
No, you nailed it in one. We snuck in. I started believing in the 82nd minute of the Derby game on the final day. That's when I sort of started saying, "Oh, we might actually do this." No, we had plenty of chances to sort of give ourselves a little bit of a foothold in sixth position, or maybe even fifth at one point, especially in the last 5 games. And we kept bottling it. I mean, we lost to Cambridge in the big rivalry game, which was, oh, God, yeah, don't even want to think about it. It'd be like you losing to United. And yeah, just that was horrible. And that was like with 5 games to go. And then we didn't win against Oxford. We didn't win against Bristol Rovers. You know, and they're games that really, if you want to be qualified for promotion in any sort of way, you need to be winning those kind of games, don't you? So I thought it was dead and buried with 2 left. And, you know, we got lucky. You did a number on Derby for us, which we needed, and we managed to get something at Barnsley. So happy days.
At your end, were you aware of our burgeoning recent rival with Derby County? Were you aware that we would genuinely want to get one over on them, especially if it cost them promotion?
No, I didn't know. Well, I mean, everyone hates Derby these days, don't they? It's kind of that club that everyone loves to hate. But I didn't know there was like a genuine thing between Wednesday and Derby. So
what happened was the other year, the year we went down, we played them on I wouldn't go as far as calling it winner takes all. Whoever won stayed up in the championship, because the pair of us had both been caught cheating, and we ended up having a points deduction. So what we did to get out of what they did to hide their cheating, they had Wayne Rooney prior, and we got Tony Pulis in. So, you know, theirs kind of paid off a bit more. But their finances got found out during the summer, and then they ended up with a point deduction the following season. So they sent us down essentially. And the irony is that it was a penalty that sent us down, and then for a penalty to keep them down, you know, I'm all right with it. You know what I mean? I'm okay. I still don't think it's as sweet if it cost them playoffs and we'd have got automatic. If the maths had been right, then I'd have been laughing. But it was already settled where we were going to be.
Well, I mean, the maths should have been right, really. I mean, 96 points is the highest total in League One history that I can remember, certainly, that hasn't been automatically promoted. Like, that's ludicrous.
Yep. So two large records. We're the highest point scorers of the league that's never been automatically promoted, and we got a winning streak that the club's never seen before. So yay us! But you could knock us out in this in these next 2 games. So it's going to be a bitter pill to swallow. Now, I appreciate that given the history of the two clubs, there's an element of some of our fans could be very much like, hey, it's only Peterborough. But, there's also a level of we need to understand where we are as a club and what we do as a team. And there's times, I mean, bear in mind, I think it was only really the last game. I think in the last I've got the stats. I'll get it up. So in the last 6 times we've played, you've won four of them, right?
Oh, so, I like that stat.
So and that's over like the last 11 years. So in 11 years, you've played 6 times and won 4 of them. You're a bit of a bogey team of ours. And when I look at some of the results, there was one where you absolutely smashed us. You put 5 past us to our 3 in League One 12 years ago, and then you put 4 past us same season, and then you beat us 2-0 at your place earlier on in the season. So there's been, Peterborough can beat Sheffield Wednesday.
See, the thing is, we're tasty on the goal side. We've always been a scoring team. We always, play attacking football unless we're at the bottom end of the championship. It's always been the defence that's the issue. And as you just said, we score 5 but concede 3. It's always been a weak point in the team. But no, I'm glad you've said that, because you put me a little bit not at ease, but it's tempered me a little bit. I'm happy about that.
Yeah. I'm going to give you, if it's a crap result tomorrow, then I'm going to give you a significant bit of false hope. But but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion as what it could be on paper. For example, if you're putting an accumulator on a Saturday, you tend to bet on the club rather than the current form. For example, I've lost a fortune just betting on Chelsea every single week, thinking they'll turn it around. It's Chelsea, for God's sake, and then it never happens. Yeah,
but you never learn, do you? You continue to do it.
Oh yeah, if football was that easy, I'd be a millionaire every week. Now, exactly. let me draw into something there. So during my rather scanted introduction there, where I kind of forgot what I was saying, Darren Ferguson is on his 4th stint in charge of your club?
Yes, 4th stint. It's ludicrous. It really is, because we've, in the last 6 managers we've had, 4 of them have been Grant McCann or Darren Ferguson. So we just keep going back to the old. How many times do you have to sack these guys before you say enough's enough and actually get someone new in? I mean, Neil Critchley was available, for Christ's sake. I just hate him in.
Neil Critchley is a very good coach. He was the under-23 coach at Liverpool, then took Blackpool out of League One, and then did he go and be Gerrard's assistant at Villa, or one of his coaches or something? Because he just kind of unceremoniously left Blackpool, didn't he? Right out of the
it was all a bit murky, wasn't it? I don't know whether he was pushed out or maybe they were paying a little bit too much, but he sort of just, like you said, just all of a sudden left one day.
My stepbrother is he's one of the coaches at Liverpool, and they just offered him more money at Villa. Like, imagine being a championship level manager, or you can be one of Gerrard's coaching team at Villa, and one pays better than the other. It's absolutely insane, isn't it? So what I wanted to drill down on then is that Peterborough under Ferguson specifically tend to be one of those clubs that you refer to like you would talk about a Kevin Keegan Newcastle team in the 90s. Just essentially score more than the other team and win every game 5-4, right? So have you seen because Ferguson's not been in charge all season, has he?
No, so we had Grant McCann for the first half of the season. It was hit and miss. Our away form was dire, and our home form was very inconsistent. And the board finally said enough's enough in January after the New Year's Eve game. So I think we were, I want to say 8th, maybe 9th at the time. Within, I want to say 3 hours of the announcement of Grant McCann getting sacked, Ferguson had been announced. And it had already been on Twitter for days that he was coming back. Just same old, I guess. But no, he's back. Since January, we've, on paper, had the best form out of the bottom 80, if that makes sense. Yes. So obviously top 2 have been promoted. They had the best form across the season. But we've had the next best form since January, I think by a couple of points as well. So you can't really grumble with that. He definitely gets results. The thing is, he's proven himself constantly in League One. I think he's had 3 promotions with us, a couple with other teams as well, but he never seems to do it at the next level. He's always a manager that seems almost too good for League One, but terrible in the Championship. So he's not good enough there either. He needs that sort of that middle ground, like Scottish League. He'd probably be good really there.
Do you know what? He could actually, with his name, he could actually do some proper damage up there, I guess.
Exactly.
So did you feel then that all of a sudden that the 5-4 days were going to come back when Ferguson came back in?
Yeah, I guess I did. I knew it would work out for the better, especially, based on where we were, because the team, in essence, is very much the same team that he got promoted with 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I think, 2 or 3 key players are different. We've got a different keeper. We've got Ephraim Mason-Clark at left wing instead of Siriki Dembele, who left us for Bournemouth. And we've not got Sammy Schwalix anymore, because obviously we sold him to Blackburn. But they're the only differences. Yep. The core of the team is still very much the same from that promotion side. So it was fairly obvious, or pretty much a given that he was going to get a tune out of these players. But there's an element, especially for me as a Posh fan. I guess a lot of fans aren't feeling the same now. We've snuck into the playoffs, but for me, there's definitely an element of we need something different regardless. If we do the impossible and get promoted this season, it would have been an amazing feat and I'd love him forever, but I still don't want him in the Championship. I know it sounds stupid after, a successful season, but I just don't want to do it again. We've got 3 points being deducted from our total next year because of financial ongoings outside of the club. So we can't really afford to be dropping any more points than we need to. And, another experiment with Darren Ferguson is not what the club needs right now.
There's that old phrase in it where they say, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, that's the definition of madness, expecting different results, something to that effect. And that's what Peterborough have got. And there's an element of stick with what you know and the rest of it. But how many times has Darren Ferguson had a bite of the cherry to then fuck it up the next time round,
Exactly. And he always does. He didn't even, it's not even just with Peterborough. If it was with Peterborough, I'd understand, because, we're not a massive club. We haven't got all the money in the world. We can't just throw money at a transfer window and hope for the best. Like, like the likes of Ipswich or Derby, but I mean, that bit them in the arse as well, didn't it? So we are very limited as a club, but, he's done it at Preston. He went into the Championship with them. Did not go well. He got sacked really early, and it's fairly obvious that he's not good enough for that level. So why? Well, I was going to say teams, but it's not even teams. Why Peterborough continue to let him manage at that level is beyond me.
Yeah, not teams in general, just your one.
Just us, yeah. It's madness.
Okay, so let's drill down into the players then a little bit. Obviously, we've got to talk about Clark Harris and Mason Clark. Also, I want to talk a bit about Jack Marriott. Had a bit of a loan stint with us a couple of years ago when we were fighting for our life in the Championship.
Yeah, that well.
Scored shit all goals and did shit all impact at all. I mean, what's it been like for you guys at a bit of a lower level?
We've actually sold Jack Marriott now. So
right. What was it like? Yes, that's it. Yeah, you shipped him on. That's right. Yeah.
No, do you know what? He'll always be a little bit of a club legend because, he had one amazing season for us and then we sold him for $5.5 million to Derby. And, we were laughing at that. He came and he offered us something different, but I mean, it wasn't good enough. Like you said, he doesn't score enough goals anymore since he had that nasty injury at Derby. And, his pace was a little bit off. So we sent him to Fleetwood, got a couple $100,000 for him. And I guess
mind you, he's got like 1 every 4 goals with them, hasn't he? He's got something like three goals in 12 appearances, which it's a too shabby return, right? I mean, it's not.
No, you'd be absolutely happy with that, wouldn't you? Especially for a player you spent next to nothing on. I guess the big thing for Jax, it needs to find fitness and consistency. I mean, even with us in the Championship, he hadn't been playing much, obviously, again, due to his injuries. He's had a lot of bad luck, to be honest, with the ones that he's had. He's done his knee in a couple of times. I think he's broke a bone in there as well in his leg. So, if he can get a bit of consistency and stop getting injured, I think he'd be very good at League One. You know, he's already had a golden boot in League One. He seems to be doing well for Fleetwood. So if he gets that consistency back and that fitness, he'll be brilliant.
Yeah. I always thought he was not prolific. I always thought he knew where the net was. I was a bit disappointed when we got him and he absolutely stunk the joint out. Now, come on then, let's talk about the big lad. Let's talk about Clark Harris. You've had him for a number of years, and then on and off, right? And he's come back and he's kind of picked up where he's left off. But he's been there now for about 3 years, right? And he seems to consistently score goals for you guys. And I remember his time at I want to say Rotherham, and when he was there and all the rest of that. But I'm just there was Rotherham, and then he kind of shipped him out on loan every 5 minutes. But you've got, I mean, he's knocking on a bit now, and you're going to keep hold of him, aren't you?
I don't think he's knocking on too bad. I think he's only 28, 29. I mean, for a modern footballer, it's not that long. He does. To be honest, so we had him, like you said, oh God, must have been 8, maybe 9 years ago. 10 years, yeah. He did nothing. I think we maybe played him 10 games. I don't think he scored a league goal. Might have scored in the cup.
Right.
But, you know, he wasn't very good, basically. And he was sort of a journeyman. He had several clubs, some on loan, some, you know, permanent, for a while. And he sort of started picking up his goals. And then he went to Bristol Rovers. Yeah. And then just started bagging, like, goal after goal after goal. So when we signed Ivan Toney for, you know, copious amounts of millions, and Bristol offered us the chance to sign him for 1.3 or something, it was a no-brainer, wasn't it? And like you said, we've had him 3 years now. He constantly finds the net. It was a little unlucky during the championship season, fitness and the likes just sort of, you know, weighing him down. But no, back in League One, he's bagging the goals every other week. He's fantastic. You know, the perfect player for this kind of level, and, you know, deserving of the captaincy because he whips the boys into shape every game.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Sheffield Wednesday then. Let's move on. I mean, who was the geezer that got in the elbow fight with Barry Bannon the last time we played at Hillsborough? I can't remember.
Oh, God.
The big old fella at the back.
Well, you've only got one big fella, so I'm imagining you talk about Frankie Kent.
It could well be. He's absolutely massive, and then he gave Bannon a bit of a nudge, and Bannon's knocked him back, and then he's hit the floor like a sack of taters, trying to win the foul. And I want to see that play out a little bit more. I want to see more of that because I'm a big fan of that side of the game, must admit. But yeah, I mean, is he anybody else aside Bannon? Everybody tends to talk about Bannon, and we know how good he is in this league. But is he anybody else that you've kind of looked at and thought, I hope he's not playing, or we've got to keep an eye on him? And this. Yeah.
Just don't want to see him on the pitch. If he accidentally falls over and gets a nasty gash on his leg in the warm up on Friday, I'll be really upset for you. Be a real shame, wouldn't it? No,
there's a with Windass. So he's been injured for the last few weeks, like a good few weeks, and he made a substitute appearance the last couple of games. So he's only coming back from injury very recently. So. His time on the pitch might be quite limited. And what that's done has forced us into playing 2 out-and-out strikers up front, as opposed to playing a forward off of Smith's shoulder. And it's just not got the same dynamic. You know, Windass's injury, and unfortunately George Byers in the centre mid as well, is when we absolutely threw the buffer that we had in terms of winning this league that we thought we were going to 2 months ago. You know, it was in the bag. We were booking holidays and all sorts, and now everybody's cancelling their plans in May. So Windass for me is the glue that mixes the midfield and what we've got up top together. I think you're right to pick him out, but I feel his appearance on the field might be somewhat mooted.
Okay, that's great for us. I'm happy with that. You've made my day there.
So I'll tell you what, I'm giving you some good stats here. I'm going to give you a false hope because I don't know, right? How do you think this game's going to go, right? So first game's at and do you know what? I need to get the name of the stadium right because it's not called what it used to be, did it?
No, so it's London Road.
It's not London Road.
Well, that's what the fans will always call it, but we obviously sold the rights because, you know, money. So it's now the Western Home Stadium.
Western Home Stadium. Whenever I hear that stadium name, that's why it always made me laugh, because it always sounded like that scene from the Craze movie with Tom Hardy, where like a Western. You know what I mean? It just always pops into my head every time I hear it. That's what it was. London Road absolutely escaped my head because I knew it was called something else. It's like the Sports Direct St. James's Arena or whatever it was called for a bit. Okay. So this game's coming up. We've got it tomorrow night. We're recording this on Thursday, so the game's coming up tomorrow night. How do you think it's going to go?
I think it's going to be a game of two halves, but not in the obvious way. I mean, obviously every game's a game of two halves, but I think the first sort of 20, 30, 40 minutes are going to be very cagey. It's going to be nerves all around in atmosphere and on the pitch, and I think it's going to be not a lot happening, but I think there'll probably be something happening late in the first half, be that a goal or a feisty tackle that leads to a red card for either side, and that's when the game's going to open. I am honestly expecting a red card tomorrow. I don't know who for. Wow. I honestly, in my honest opinion, I think this game could go either way. I think it's going to be very open in the second half, but there needs to be something that happens in the first half, either a red card or a goal, for that to happen. I really think it will.
The red card could probably go to that big Kent. So I tell you what, the way I was seeing it myself, right? I thought, look, it's the first leg of a semi-final playoff. Normally these are quite cagey, tentative affairs. Under McCann, right? If we were playing you under McCann, I'd be worried about it. I'd be sat there going, this is going to be a shit, dour, shit game of shit football. But now Ferguson's back, it could be anything. Because I tell you what, to give him his dues, one thing that Ferguson ain't going to do is to coin a phrase, park the bus, right? He's going to go for it. He's going to get some goals at home.
You would think so, but every now and again he does. It's really weird. He'll either really go for it, play three at the back and let everyone sort of, open themselves up, or he will sit back, and it's very hit and miss on what games he feels he needs to do that, because on the big games, we'll attack, we'll go for goals. We always seem to do well against the bigger teams in the league and the teams that are up there in the table. But it's the games lower end that we always seem to struggle because we set up wrong. And, Ferguson is, I don't want to say tactically inept, but there's a reason he's managed in League One,
There's I don't know where Peterborough sits though for me, right? So obviously, the League One this year has been relatively strong for League One. With I'm going to put ourselves in there. Ipswich have been in there a couple of years now, but they're a huge club, right? They've got European titles and whatnot. Yeah. You've got Plymouth have been very good for a couple of years, and then you've got Bolton, Barnsley, all played at the top level, and then you've got other teams in League One, like teams that some of our fans have never been to the ground of, like Fleetwood, Accrington Stanley, players like Forest Green, where do Peterborough sit? Because as far as your Accrington Stanleys and Forest Greens look at Peterborough, like, listen, this is a big club. Get your nut down. You're going to have to graft. Whereas there's some teams at the top of the table going, hey, it's only bloody Peterborough. What, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where they sit.
No, so I mean, in terms of fan base and size, we're probably, one of the more established League One teams towards the upper end. In terms of the money that we bring in and our fan base, we probably should be challenging for the very least playoffs every year. Now, the fan base that are a little bit more biased would probably say, oh, we're in that bracket that Rotherham are. We're a bit too good for League One, but, not good enough for the Championship. We're not at that level.
Rotherham have got that perch sewn up. That is a one team. That is a one-team gang, and it's just Rotherham.
Exactly, and I'd love to say that our team's on the up and up, but I'm really not sure. I mean, our fan base has been growing a little bit. Since we came back out of COVID, our attendance to games has been quite a bit higher, even at League One. Obviously the Championship season helped, but we're still averaging 8.5K a game at home for us, which, for teams like Sheffield and Derby and Bolton, that sounds terrible. Like, you could probably get that on an away game for some of them, but for us, we
can't get the allowance. They won't give us the time.
No, exactly. But that's really good for us, and we never really travel in terms of fans very well. but we seem to be taking on regular occurrence, a couple of thousand to some of the more local games. And for us, that's huge. So, the profile of the team, I guess, is growing, and that's fantastic for us. But I think it's still going to be a couple of seasons of doing what we do best, which is buying young and selling young, to sort of get a foothold in the upper echelon of where we're challenging for automatics every year, and maybe yo-yo in between the leagues. Yeah.
Well, it's a nice place to be. It's a nice place to be. So right,
sure.
so I'm gonna slow down here, and I'm going to talk to you about the potential lineup. This is the lineup on the screen now of the last time we played each other back in March. Is this going to change much? Looking at it?
Yes.
I mean, you got.
It's pretty nailed on. Yeah, I would maybe not expect Burrows and Dogbetter to start in the same game. I think it would be either or, because they'll probably play that left wing back role, and then you'll have Mason Clark going on the left wing instead of either Burrows or Better, probably Burrows, and you'd have an extra midfielder in there. So that's pretty close to how I would expect us to line up, though.
But you never know, right? It's Darren Ferguson. It could be 4 strikers up front. It's an absolute bloody mess. So listen, I was debating whether we catch up after this game next week and go do this again and dissect the game. But I'll see we'll wait until the result happens, and then if we want to talk to each other or not, and then see if we can talk about some of the big decisions. But listen, thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks a lot, and have a good day out, but let's not too good, right?
Well, yeah, we'll see how the game goes. If we win, then I'm free anytime. We'll have a chat. But yeah.
All right, no worries. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Hello from the other side.
The Wednesday week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.
Blair, I've put you on specially. I brought you onto the side to talk about men's grooming, downstairs grooming.
Well, as you know, I'm the biggest men's grooming guy in the biz today, Fudge.
Well, of course you are. Of course you are. And I know that you're a big gym guy. I know you're a big runner. And have you ever been out and about and all of a sudden you've got what can be described as a small fire down there?
It's as red as a fire engine down there sometimes, Fudge.
Well, I tell you what, that's a good point, because right now, the Wednesday week for the next few weeks is going to be brought to you by Manscaped. And we're giving away discounts on the Manscaped 4.0 bundle.
What's it include?
I've got it's the performance package, mate. You've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker, a Crop Reviver toner, so it brings it back if you need it. Performance boxer briefs if performing is an issue for you, mate.
I'm fully seeded, but
fully seeded. I enjoy that. Yeah. So and then we've got all the bits that'll keep it off the bathroom floor. We've got it's waterproof. It cuts down the issue that you might get. It helps reduce the likelihood of getting an ingrowing hair as well.
Perfect. And that's from a Gillette fan.
In it. So I thought you'd be a fan. So listen, you guys back home, you guys watching and listening right now, you can get a discount on this if you enter the code TWW20 into the checkout at the end, and you can get yourself a 20% discount. That's the Manscaped 4.0 bundle. Get on it. The Wednesday week is also brought to you by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. I bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.